Oh, hello, everybody. How are you? Pat Matthews, and had a little, I guess, a misunderstanding with our guest today. By the way, you noticed that T-shirt, right? Well, this is where you can get your Beatles-A-Rama swag and the eBay store. And that shirt that I have on BeatlesaramaTV.com rocks. Pretty cool, huh? Tom Murray thought we were going on Skype, but we're not. We're on StreamYard, baby. So anyway, and you're watching Beatles-A-Rama TV. Now, what's happening now is I've sent Tom the link again, and hopefully he will be showing up here on my dashboard anytime now. Now, Tom Murray, by the way, was a photographer for a London newspaper back in the 60s, okay? And he went on a photo shoot invited by a friend who also worked at the paper on July 28, 1968, which the Beatles and their people titled A Mad Day Out. And I'm sure you've seen the photographs, and I wish I could show them to you right now. Maybe that can happen in the future, that we'll be able to talk about things and actually show them. Wouldn't that be grand? But Mad Day Out, Tom Murray was surprised. His friend told him that they were going to, take photographs of a rock group, and he never in his wildest dreams imagined it would be John, Paul, George, and Ringo, and it was. So let's see. He still hasn't shown up yet, and he did respond to my email right away. But I figured I'd come on so that you wouldn't think I was, bagging you. If you have any questions for Tom, once he bops in here, you can visit StreamYard.com/Facebook. Then StreamYard will ask to access your Facebook name and picture. If you accept, future comments will show your name and picture. And then it won't say Facebook person or something like that, So I can actually... and Tom will know who you are. So give us, go to that link right there on the screen and do it. Once again, a promo for the Beatles-A-Rama swag. You'll be seeing all sorts of things there now. We actually have and they didn't send me a sample, but a Beatles-A-Rama COVID mask. So, you'd be the envy of your neighborhood if you got one of those. So this is Beatles-A-Rama TV, and my name is Pat Matthews, and I got a thing in here somewhere that says who I am. There it is. Tom, where are you? Let me check my email. So this is kind of embarrassing in a way. I don't know if he can actually... I know he doesn't see me right now. Well, he might be looking at the Facebook page, because you can see you're obviously watching this on the Facebook page, right? Let me see something. Da-da-da-da-da. I think that's the wrong one. That's the right one. Where am I? Oh, well, that's odd. It was delayed at first, but yeah, so it's on the Facebook page, and so far nobody's asked any questions. I can check that out. I had a promo on there for this. I think Tom, wait a minute. Now, Tom, you need to turn your camera on. Hold on a second. He's there. I'm going to add him to the stream.
Time when I did it with Australia.
I can hear you.
Yeah, it says my sound's on and my camera's on. This is
what?
That's why we ended up doing it on my mobile phone.
I don't know. Well, I don't understand. I don't know why we can't see you.
But we do very lucky.
What's that?
You're very lucky.
Oh no, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, I don't understand it, because this was the same trouble I had, and with one in Australia yesterday. I ended up doing it on the phone, and it says here the mute's off, the camera's there. Let me see. I'll click on camera mic and see if that does anything.
I'm crossing my fingers that this happened.
I'm crossing my legs as well. I didn't stand up, I'd fall over.
Don't take your blood pressure.
See, it says Google Chrome is using the webcam.
Well, let's see. The only options that I have as far as you're concerned is muting your microphone, which I don't want to do, because then we won't be able to hear you.
Yeah.
So if anybody, look, I'm going to put this up on the screen. If anybody has any questions for you, the best place to do it is by going to StreamYard.com/Facebook.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to see their comments and questions.
Yeah.
So far, I haven't gotten any. But then again, you just got on.
Yeah.
No one had any questions for me. Well, that was, and now you're gone. Let's hope he comes back again. Maybe this time with pictures. That would be really nice. So anyway, let's give you another plug for the Beatles-A-Rama merchandise. The merch store is on ebay.com. And we hope that you might visit that and see if there's something you like. We have coffee mugs. We have, like I said, COVID masks. We have T-shirts and hoodies and all kind of goodies. I didn't mean to rhyme that, but it did. So we're waiting. Okay, it says Tom Murray, devices not connected. Now, you know, he's in London. So I can't. Nope, he disappeared again. Well, this is fun, isn't it? I want to thank the two people who have hung in there watching me fill time. In the meantime, be sure to check out BeatlesaramaTV.com, won't you? Get your Beatles-A-Rama app for your Android or iPhone. They're free. And there's a story about that. I remember when we first got the app, you know, I had to pay to have it done. So I charged 99 cents for the download of the app. I got 49 cents and Apple got 50. Okay. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is it was, wait a minute. Forget that. Tom Murray is here.
Yeah. And I'm on my mobile phone, and that's how it worked the last time. So the camera work will be a bit rubbish because my arm starts to ache. I'm glad to see you at long last.
Yeah, it's nice to see you. And it, you know, your pictures obviously were not rubbish. You know, your photography is great.
Well, I used to call them snaps, but then I got told off by my business manager, who's a dear friend. She actually lives in upstate New York. She said, "You've got to stop calling them snaps. They're wonderful." Actually, I had a treat. I lifted something up. I don't know if I can hold it without damaging it. This is one of the gallery photographs.
Yes. That one of the
way. It's a 20 by 16, and this is the one that Andrew Edwards wants to make into the statue, which we're hoping
very cool.
Into London. And he did the Liverpool statue of the Beatles.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that Mad Day Out. I mean, obviously you showed up and you didn't know it was going to be them, but once you found out, how did you feel?
Well, the thing was, I worked at the Sunday Times, and one of the great photographers, Don McCullum, said he was going to be photographing a pop group. And would I drive him around? I said, sure. And I said, I've got to go and get my car, because even in London in the 60s, you couldn't park it anywhere. So I had a red XK150 Jag, and he was at the Sunday Times studio where I worked, had my offices there. And as I was leaving, he said, bring your camera, make it some nice snaps. Here is the camera.
Wow. Yeah.
It's a 1967 Nikon F. It's got film in it, and I still use it. I'm very
so it was literally new when you went on the Mad Day Out, right?
Yeah. And we drove off, and we arrived at rehearsal rooms. And in fact, I have the correct chronology. The great Beatles expert, he had the chronology wrong. And I appeared at Beatles Week, and he said, "Oh yes, you went here and here." I went, "No," and he went, "Oh," so you have to be right. Anyway, we arrived at these rehearsal rooms, and I said, "Oh, someone's playing Lady Madonna." I opened the door and went, "Oh shit." Paul McCartney. I've been beeped out of NBC and CBS so many times because I forget you're not supposed to say that word. So
Oh,
anyway,
no. Well, this is the internet, you know, I mean.
Yeah, it will be all right. So anyway, after I got over the shock, I said to Don, is this the group? I said, oh, yeah, didn't I say? I went, no. And for some reason that I'll never know, I love black and white, and there's black and white pictures here around me. I picked up 2 rolls of color film, and that's all I had, that camera, that lens, and 2 rolls of color film. So I couldn't shoot even in the Sunday Times studio. And the picture of the boys against the blue background with their hair being blown, I'm the one behind the wind machine. And they kept saying, stop, stop. And I said, no, more wind, more wind.
You know, I actually have that particular photograph that you're talking about, the black and white one with the wind-blown hair.
That's it.
Obviously, it was a copy. And somebody gave it to me as a gift in a frame. So, you know, so I'm very proud of that.
I was very lucky. Everywhere we went, in 1968, everything in Britain was shut because it was a Sunday. You either went to the church, or if you were lucky, you went to the pub for an hour or so. But it was very quiet. All the families got together, and we could drive around London, and we were only spotted twice in the whole trip. And Mal Evans, who was their manager, he drove George Harrison's Mercedes Pullman, a green one, and everyone said I was wrong. And on the 50th anniversary of the shoot on top of Old Street Station, I thought I saw Mal Evans. I'm going mad. It was Mal's son who was in the front seat, and he looked just like his dad. And he said, no, it was George Harrison's green Mercedes long wheelbase. Ta-da! So I thought, I knew I was right. I know my cars. I used to photograph motor racing. In fact, I used to race at one stage. I'm too fat to get in the car now. I get in a Bentley, but not a racing car. But we had a fabulous time. And because at that time, I looked pretty young. Well, I was only 25. I mean,
someone said you look like Peter Noon. Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a.
Well, they all said the David Hemmings film Blow Up was based on me because I was the youngest photographer at the Sunday Times. It was the highest paid job in London. And I photographed the Beatles in 68. And I was the youngest photographer to ever photograph the Royal Family in 69. And the best photographers in the world worked here. Don McCullum was world famous. Eve Arnold, a great American lady photographer. She died one day short of her 100th birthday. And we had a ball. We used to travel all over the place. And Helmut Newton, the great photographer, was there. But all of the great names of the 60s, 70s, 80s all worked there. Twiggy used to come there all the time with her boyfriend, Justin de Villeneuve, in his Lamborghini Miura. We could hear them coming for miles. And, of course, Lord Snowden worked there. And we had some of the biggest celebrities turning up there. And Clive Arrowsmith was a great photographer, and he used to always bring the latest Beatles records. And Lord Thomas, whose office was on the penthouse, used to phone through and said, tell young Thomas to turn that bloody Beatles music down, because they could hear it in the conference room. Because the studio was all glass. It was designed by Lord Snowden. It was 60 feet long, 30 feet high, and it was all glass. In fact, when the Beatles played on the roof of Abbey, their Savile Row building, I could hear it because I was high enough up. And thought, where this Beatles music come from? Because I saw on the news it played on the roof. But we traveled all over the place. We went to John wanted to go to Highgate Cemetery, where the Karl Marx tomb is. And there's a special area where a lot of quite famous people, George Michael's buried there, but it's closed off most of the time, and it's open. And the Karl Marx memorial is a huge bust of him on a big concrete plinth, and lovely. But John forgot cemeteries were closed on a Sunday. Everything was closed on a Sunday in Britain. 1968.
Was that Tom? Was that the photograph where John's laying on the ground out in front of the gate?
Oh no, that's even further because we couldn't get in. We went to Swains Lane, where they all stood outside this house. And the 2 girls inside the house screamed to their dad, Dad, the Beatles are outside. And he said, don't be stupid. And he said, Dad, it's the Beatles. When he went outside, everyone was driving away. The new owners of the house have that picture in their front room. And when we went to do the book, which took us 2 days to cover what we did in one day because the traffic's so terribly bad, I knocked on the door and said, excuse me, I'm Tom Murray. Went, oh my God, we've got your picture. So we photographed them outside. But from there, we went on to St Pancras Old Streets, where there's just lovely gardens, and that's where the picture was of the old man lying asleep. You never realized it was a beast.
That's a great one. Yeah,
we did the hollyhocks, which, fun enough, the hollyhocks have gone now. They say they travel, they move up and down the garden, but they're none there anymore. But when we went there, they were fully grown. It was just a lovely area. That's the only place people saw us. Some kids shouted to their dad, Dad, it's the Beatles. And then they ran into the back of each other. Fortunately, no one was hurt. And the only other time we were recognised, when we finished the whole day, we went back to Paul McCartney's house. And my studio was not far away from there. I ended up with a studio right around the corner from it after I left the Sunday Times. And there were 4 girls outside. When they saw all the boys get out, one fainted, one wee-weed herself, and the other 2 couldn't stop screaming. I just hoped when they came out, they got autographs from all of the guys. But that's where I did the photograph of Paul, his dog Martha, and Ringo in the background, because it was a little geodesic dome. And
Who brought the dog?
Oh, that's Paul.
Paul just brought the dog along?
Yeah, it was there at his house, because that dome was in the back garden, and you went in, shut the door, pressed the button, the floor went up. So I actually locked everyone else out.
Mm-hmm. We have more people joining in, so if you have a question for Tom Murray, go to that link right there and take care of things and type in your question, and Tom will answer it for you. I had a question. I mean, of all how many there's like 20 plus?
23.
23.
Yeah.
A couple of them, Paul McCartney is either shirtless or only wearing a vest.
Yeah.
Whose idea was that?
It was mainly their ideas. Paul and
right?
John were bouncing ideas off each other, and then also Ringo and
George
were bouncing ideas off each other. George was very quiet, and I love my picture of George. I think it's one of my best, because he looks so wonderful, and he was very talented. But see, he liked a lot of films, and I worked in films as well. In fact, I worked with lots of film when I went and lived in LA and also in New York. And Ringo was designing some furniture. And later at the Sunday Times, I actually photographed Ringo's furniture, and he was very pleased with it. It was all chrome and black and really artsy-fartsy. It was very clever. And then John and Paul were just bouncing ideas off each other. So it was one of those things where someone said, "Did you direct them?" You go, "No, it's easier for me to move than tell them," because they're really good at it. I mean, they were excellent at it. And after we'd been at the St Pancras Gardens, we went off and we ended up at Wapping, where Paul's down by the river with his shirt off, chained up. The chains have gone, but the river's but you're not allowed to go there. It's a private place. Lady Segelman, who's the sculptress to Her Majesty the Queen, lives there. Graham Norton lives there, and 2 very famous film stars live there. But I'm not allowed to say who they are. But they're very and they're very nice. They gave me special permission to go there when we were doing the book the second time. And in fact, Simon, who wrote the book, didn't tell me there was a speedboat coming by, so I got very wet.
Your camera didn't get damaged, though, right?
Paul actually gave the middle wife, the one who nobody liked, so I won't mention her name, he gave her that picture. So I wonder, when they got divorced, were the bits of his anatomy cut off, or was it full of holes, or did she tear it all up? And it's
see, now you have to tell us who you're talking about here.
Oh no, you've got to find out the middle wife. It's not Linda. Linda's lovely, and his current wife's lovely. It's the other one.
Oh, I know. Oh, yes, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Beatles fans hate her. They hate her.
Well, she was a gold digger. You know,
it's like everyone used to blame Yoko for John. Now everyone realizes that Yoko was, the favorite for John, right. And. I used to see them in New York when I was working there. And in fact, I was standing in Central Park once, and John had already been murdered. And I was standing next to this lady, and she was with a man. He said, "That's an egret." And I said, "No, it's a heron." And she looked at him and said, "The young man's quite right, it's a heron." It was Yoko Ono. And I thought, well, a lot of years since we've seen each other. So I didn't say a word. I just walked off. That was it. But
well, that one photo that you did on Mad Day Out, it stirred quite a controversy back in the day, where John Lennon looks like he's dead, lying on the sidewalk.
Yeah, Beatles fans either love it or hate it, because he was there and he literally threw himself on the ground. The glasses came off. He shut his eyes. Then he opened his eyes, and George picked up his glasses. And it takes as long for me to say that as how it happened. So it's always been. I was in New York when he was shot. In fact, we were organising a Sagittarius birthday party because there were 5 of us. And when we came outside, everyone was saying, Lennon's dead, Lennon's dead. And I said, Lennon's been dead since the Russian Revolution. They went, no, John Lennon. So it was quite spooky just to walk up the road, and already around the Dakota Bill, there were ambulances and police. And I always wanted to ask him, why did you do that? And literally, I have 2 frames of it, and that's it. And it happened as quickly as it tells me to take it. It was really quite bizarre.
Yeah,
but some people love it, and some people cry when they see it.
Right, but I mean, once you realize that it was a goof, I mean, you know.
Yeah, well, Beatles fans are probably the best in the world and the most knowledgeable. So I always have to be very careful when I meet them, not to say the wrong thing. But then I don't say the wrong thing many times. But as I'm getting older, my memory's going.
No, I didn't. Now, I don't think you took this photograph, and it wasn't on Mad Day Out, but there was something that was similar where John Lennon is wearing a stethoscope and he's listening to the ground. Have you
there was
photo?
Strange pictures for that butcher catalogue where they had all the raw meat around them. The original.
This was a black and white photo that was taken outside, and it's really. It almost looks like you've seen the album cover for John Lennon's rock and roll album, right?
Yeah.
Where he's in that doorway, because when he was a lad in Liverpool, he had a photograph of himself there at that same spot. Yeah. So he had the photo taken again, in the 70s. Yeah. And but it seems to me it's like a baby stroller. One of the Beatles is pushing a baby stroller, and then he hang on a second. That was my excuse the ring.
That's all right. I thought it was me for a minute.
Yeah, there was a baby stroller.
They should have warned you. I'm very good with technology.
Well, listen, you and me both. I mean, I'm learning on the fly.
This is the third time we've tried this system, StreamYard, and it always comes up the same, that the microphone's not on and the camera's not on. So I put my phone on and boom, it comes up.
I'm not trying to be technical now, but you probably have to go into your settings on your computer and open up the camera. I mean, just because StreamYard says that the camera is working, don't do it now.
No, I won't do it now. If I did it now, we'd be here for hours.
Oh, I know. So, but anyway, the Beatles weren't the only people that you photographed. I mean, you royalty. And
yes, the next year, I photographed Princess Anne with Lord Snowdon at Buckingham Palace, and we'd left something in the car, and I went down, and I forgot the golden rule: if you see corgis, Her Majesty's not far behind. And this corgi came running along, and it nipped me in the ankle, and I very gently kicked it out of the way, very gently. And I looked up and I went, oh my God. I said, good afternoon, Your Majesty. She said, who are you? I said, I'm here with Lord Snowdon. She said, oh, that one's always nipping people. So that was that one. And actually, I'd met Lord Snowdon's wife, Princess Margaret, accidentally. You're supposed to be introduced officially. Someone would say, Your Majesty, this is Tom Murray. And you shake hand, bow, say, good morning, Your Majesty. Then you call her Mom. I was actually in Kensington Palace, where Lord Snowdon had a little studio in a dark room. And I'd often work in the dark room. And I could hear this little clip-clop of the shoe. I thought, oh, no, I know who's coming. And along comes Princess Margaret, who was stunningly gorgeous, but quite petite, like the Queen. And she broke the ice. She said, oh, you must be Tommy. I said, I'm Tony's wife, Margaret. I thought, no, someone's supposed to say Your Royal Highness, Mary Esquire, and then you bow and say, good afternoon, ma'am. So, but that was the first. And in fact, I'm working with Simon, who worked on that book. We're doing my life story. And a big chunk of it would be the 4.5 years I spent working with Lord Snowdon and the time I spent with Princess Margaret. I mean, I was working downstairs one day in his darkroom doing some pictures, and the butler came along and said, Her Royal Highness said we'd like to come up for drinks. So I go upstairs, and there's Peter Sellers, Princess Margaret, and film directors and film stars. And I'm going, oh, and I'm still dressed in my Levi's and cowboy boots. I was at
And
the Sunday Times once, and I got a call saying it was KP. They abbreviated because they thought people, and that was Kensington Palace. And the secretary said, Her Royal Highness said, would you like to come for lunch? So I always had to say where I was going. So I'm in my Levi's shirt, scarf, boots, everything. And I got in a taxi, and I said, Kensington Palace. He said, oh, the hotel. I said, no, the palace. And said, they won't let you in. As he drove up, the policeman stopped and said, oh, good morning, Mr. Murray. You're dining with Her Royal Highness again. I wish I'd seen his face, but I gave him a big tip anyway.
Well, you know, who was the princess that you said was coming up, and she called you Tommy, and
that's Princess Margaret.
Princess Margaret, and then she said she was very informal.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah,
it was a whole different ball game. But I mean, he was one of the first people that actually worked. He actually designed the studio at Sunday Times. He designed the big aviary at Regent's Park Zoo. And Mark Boxer actually was the first person to design the Sunday Times magazine. It was the first ever Sunday supplement. And it was just great. So many people worked there that were world famous, that went on and on. And we travel. Tony and I flew to Switzerland to photograph Igor Stravinsky. And it's the first time I made a mistake. Igor Stravinsky sat and wrote a piece of music. And Tony said, you should have got him to sign it. It'll be worth a fortune.
Wow.
Yeah. But we had dinner at this grand hotel, and it really was grand. And Madame Stravinsky was there, and they talked about Cocteau and Diaghilev and Nijinsky. And I was absolutely dumbstruck. It was living history. And that was one of the great things. That job opened so many doors where I got to speak to world famous people. I mean, in the States, I got to speak to Armand Hammer, and he showed me his private art collection. And I went into his office, and behind him was the man with the golden helmet, which is a Rembrandt. I said, why do you have it behind you? He said, I used to have it in front of me, and it never got any work done because I stared at it. And he said, did you like modern art? I said, yes, I went to the South of France one, and I went to this museum. He said, oh, come through. And two armed guards opened the door, and this hallway was full of the most amazing pictures, most of which he bought at the beginning of World War One. I mean, he had so many. He had Monet, Manet, Matisse. It was just, I mean, I was almost frothing at the mouth. They were so gorgeous. And it was just, I never realized that one person could own something so wonderful. I mean, now some of them are worth hundreds of millions, but they're beautifully done.
So let me ask you this question, Tom. After the Mad Day Out, it was July 28th, 1968.
Yeah.
After the pictures were processed, after you developed the photographs, I'm sure you sent copies to the Beatles, Brian Epstein.
No.
Well, Brian Epstein had passed away by then, right?
No,
you didn't. They didn't ask you for them.
No, Eve Arnold. No one knew what I was doing because I didn't look like I knew what I was doing, which is one of the greatest assets. Most photographers are at least 10 years older than me. They're all in their 30s. Eve Arnold said, darling, keep the best for your old age pension, edit them down and struggle. And I threw out the ones I didn't like. I cut them in half because people did bin dive in those days and snatch pictures. And I put them in a drawer, and they stayed in a drawer for many, many, many years. I never did anything with them. In fact, the first one I auctioned was for Judith Lucht, the American actress who started Project Angel Food. And we got $12,000 for that. And David Hockney, who I knew from London, beat me. He got $13,000 for one of his paintings. In fact, George and Ringo both signed my work for charity. And so far, I've raised 1.65 million on my own and helped raise over 9 million.
Yeah.
Well, and some American charities. I did Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s water thing. We did more stuff for Make-A-Wish and all over the world. I mean, Make-A-Wish, I donated the whole set, so we raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for that. Everywhere I've had a gallery show, I've always donated a print to the favorite charity of the gallery. Went to Portland, Oregon, which was a hoot. It was a fabulous place. We had a great show there. And they, if any gallery is having an opening, they close the other galleries that night and everyone turns up. But I had to ride around in a Beetle, and I rode around in the Paul McCartney Beetle.
Very nice, very nice.
It got followed everywhere. But I've also had shows in Liverpool, and anyone who's a Beatle has got to come to Liverpool. They're all mad. They're the biggest fun people you ever have. I mean, they just party all the time.
Now, what part of England do you live in?
I'm living in Bury St Edmunds. It's famous for where the Knights made Prince John sign the Magna Carta, which is the basis of all our laws. He was very clever, Prince John. He got the Pope to annul it after 6 weeks. But we've got it's one of those places where we've got houses that are 600-700 years old. An American friend owns a house that's 600 years old, and some friends came over and they said they've never had a drink in a museum before.
Well, do you want to hold? You want to hold up some of your photographs, and I will give you full screen. So,
problem is, I've got to hold the damn camera as well.
Oh,
well, this is the book everyone can get.
Like, okay, show the book. Yeah. Okay, let me.
This one's available from Amazon. They're not signed, but they're reasonably priced. Sometimes you can find it on the internet.
Down on the.
This is the Japanese version. And
that's a Japanese version of the book.
That's fit. But the thing is, it's brilliant. It's got posters inside and note cards and things. I think it goes for about £110 in Japan if you can get one. I've only got one. And then
how about at TomMurrayPhotos.com? People can go there for that, for the book?
Yeah, they'd have to go directly to Japan for the other one. But they can go there. But the Amazon price for the book's pretty reasonable. But it is unsigned, and I know it's for sale in the States as well. But I mean,
I think I've only done it for Italy and France, but Amazon.com has separate businesses in other countries. So I guess you could find it that way in Japan, right?
Yeah, because someone asked me the other day if they sent a copy, could I sign it? I had to explain I'm in lockdown. I'm waiting for major heart surgery.
Yeah,
it's still going at the moment.
Yeah, you do. You seem really well. I mean, look, I'm
lighting.
I'm less than a decade younger than you, and that was my cardiologist that was calling just a few minutes ago. So we can talk.
Yeah, well, Friday I'm going to see my heart surgeon. Then they're going to try and give me a date because all this COVID stuff. I mean, we've been in lockdown, and I don't know how long it's going to take before I can have the surgery. I'm supposed to have other things. Everything's been delayed by this little bug that's rampaging its way around the world. It's a very strange world now.
Would you blame the problems you're having scheduling that on social medicine or what?
No, what's happened is that they've put so much effort into saving people's lives with the COVID. Other things have been delayed. Now they're trying to catch up. As the hospital things have gone down, they started catching up. But now we've got another spike coming up again. I mean, Spain's had a massive spike. France has. I mean, India's had a huge spike. I always say it's like World War III, but we've got no weapons. You can't shoot it. You can't send a rocket after it. You can't get the Marines to go and attack it. It's this unseen little thing. And it's just destroying so much of the world. I mean, someone wrote a book saying that in 2020 something like this would happen, but and then we've got all the terrible fires in the States, and I think the planet's revolting against us at the moment. It's beginning to think perhaps human beings are not the right people.
Well, the way I look at it, Tom, I told my daughter yesterday that the only good thing that happened in 2020 was the birth of my grandson. So, that's everything else has been, and I'm going to say it, has gone to shit. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So,
well, I mean, I went to America for 12 weeks and stayed 20 years. And to be honest, I worked in Africa for years. In fact, I worked in South Africa with the South African government at one stage. And I've never seen race relations in America so bad. And it's starting here as well. I mean, my mother always said, treat people as you'd like to be treated. I've had friends all over the world. I've had friends of every color and creed and that. And I treat people as I'd like to be treated. But things are just so bad now.
Well, that's our generation. I mean, that's the way we were raised.
Yeah. Well, someone said you're never nasty. I said it's much easier to be nice. It takes a lot of effort to be nasty.
Yeah.
I'm a great believer in, as you climb up the top, be careful as you begin to go down, because they'll kick the S out of you.
Yes, it's like you don't know who you're going to meet on the way down. That's right.
Well, this is it. I mean, I mean, some of the, I mean, I've done wonderful photographs of Ralph Lauren. I photographed Yves Saint Laurent, Giorgio Armani. In the States, when I was there, photographs of David Lean. People might remember he did Dr. Zhivago and Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
You know, all these great people. And Sir Alec Guinness, I meant everyone know him from Obi-Wan Kenobi. He was a great actor. And I was just very lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. And I knew what to do with my little trusty Nikon.
That's right. And you were in the right place at the right time for those great
I'm a
photos of the Beatles.
I'm a believer in timing.
Yeah.
I mean, had I not left South Africa when I did, I wouldn't have got the job at the Sunday Times, because I'd been in local newspapers for 4.5 years. I went to Africa for 4.5 years, photographing all over there. I started in what was Northern British, worked my way down. And I said I worked for a theatre company doing opera, ballet, children's theatre, adult theatre, and Afrikaans and English. And I loved doing the theatre work. And I managed to get 3 international awards for the theatre work. And I asked, could I have 2 weeks off without pay in December, because that was obviously the summer, because I wanted to come home by ship. And they said no. So I told them to shove the job where the sun doesn't shine. And after, when I was leaving, Victor Melanie, who directed War and Peace in the theatre, I'd helped him with all the flashes and the electronic stuff to make it go with the Canon file. And he said he was very sorry that I was leaving, that I reminded him of Lord Snowden. I said, oh, how? He said, you're very arrogant and opinionated and a very good photographer. I thought 1 out of 3 is not bad. So I trundled off. And when I got home, my mum said, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm going to buy an XK150 car, a lovely red Jaguar. And, you know, as one does. And I felt silly sitting at home all suntanned and blonde haired, having spent all that time on the boat. And,
well, you listen, man. You were in swinging London at the time that there was to be there. You know what I mean?
It was really fantastic. I mean, you would go down the King's Road and you would see the Beatles on one side of the road and the Rolling Stones on the other. I hate to mention their name, but they were there. And Twiggy was one of the top models, and it really was. Everyone was coming out. Young people had money to spend, and we all had this wonderful new thing called a disc. A 45 disc even, and LPs, and Beatles started coming out. And when I was in New York, a lovely model, Paul Palmera, came back from Japan with one of the first ever Sony Walkmans. And I used to sometimes get on Freddie Laker's plane and fly to England for the weekend because it was so cheap. And I had this thing where people kept stopping saying, what's that? Luckily, I'd taken extra batteries. And people didn't realize you could have this little tiny cassette, which I probably have about 300 still. And you could hear great music on it.
Old school.
Everywhere you went, you heard Beatles music. I drove for 5.5 hours into the bush in what is now Zambia, and we turned up at this missionary station. And the first thing I saw was a Coca-Cola sign, and the second thing I heard was a Beatles song being played. And we'd literally driven for 4 hours. I mean, they're everywhere, and their music's fabulous. Very few songs that people didn't like. I mean, you hear George Harrison's "My Sweet Lord" at so many weddings now, and you hear it in commercial. There were 4 incredibly talented young men. Incredibly
talented. Tom, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to wish you well with your surgery.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, and I hope someone will tell me how to fix this stupid technology thing. I'll need to go borrow a friend's 7 or 8-year-old. They'll probably press 2 buttons and fix it.
There you go.
Anyway, great to speak, Joe. If you want to speak again anytime.
Okay, Tom, and this is going to be on our YouTube channel soon, so you tell your friends and they can give a watch. And I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks a lot. Good night, everybody. Bye.
So there you go. And here is the YouTube channel. That was Tom Murray, Beatle photographer on Mad Day Out in July of 1968. It was a pleasure talking to him, and thank you for watching. And remember that you can watch the thing again. Tell your friends who didn't get a chance to see it to go to our YouTube channel right there on the screen. There's the link, okay? And until next time, one more time for the swag. Let me hold on a second. Get your Beatles-A-Rama merch at our eBay store, okay? That's it. You're watching Beatles-A-Rama TV. I'm Pat Matthews. You have a great day.